The following program contains mature subject matter and a wide variety of material that may act as a trigger for many people. Discretion is advised.
This is a shock in the dark. Hello, Shock in the Dark. You can call me Trip. Not my real name, but it is my real nickname. My dad is a junior, I'm the third, thus I've been called Trip, short for triple, since middle school. This story isn't about anything paranormal, but it is about something mysterious. This story is about luck. Question: do you believe in luck? I've heard a lot of people say they don't believe in luck, or, you make your own luck. But I'm here to tell you, luck is 100% real, and my life proves it. Ever since I can remember, I've had bad luck. If there's ever anything that involves chance whatsoever, my bad luck steps in and I lose. Playing games at a county fair, gambling in Vegas, calling heads and tails on a coin flip, parking spaces, parking tickets, you name it. I know exactly how it's going to turn out. I lose. I've been hit by a bus, wrecked a new car exactly 3 minutes after driving it out of a dealership, offered an off-duty cop weed, been locked out of my apartment stark naked. I'm not going to go through my entire history of everything that goes wrong. That would be impossible because basically it's constant. I will, however, give you an example. Last year, after years of saving and planning, I finally just opened up my own tiny bar in the town where I live. It was a struggle between a religious community group protesting a bar in their neighborhood, to a scam contractor who skipped town with my money, to City Hall losing various applications I had put in, and then having no record of my permits. But I finally opened my doors on the day the ordinance came down that required all bars to shut down for the pandemic. No worries, this has been my life. I'm used to it. Well, I had some food products in the bar that would expire, so I invited a handful of friends to come by and help themselves to it, and we all had a few drinks to commemorate the opening and closing of my bar. And that's when the police showed up. They just happened to be driving by when they saw a couple of people entering the bar, and no matter what I told them, they insisted on giving me a citation for having an open bar. In the process, they asked me for my ID, but my wallet was missing. I didn't go to jail, but I did spend about an hour and a half in the back of a squad car while they verified my identity. By the time all this was done, I finally got home, and because I still couldn't find my wallet, I called my bank to cancel my credit cards. Turns out, somebody had already cleaned out my account. The bank asked me when I had noticed my cards were missing, and I told them this afternoon around 4 p.m. Well, since the purchases that cleaned out my account happened around 6 p.m., that was plenty of time for them to put a hold on the card if I had only called them earlier, so the bank refused to credit my account. It didn't matter that I was being detained by the police at the time. To make a long story as short as possible, I got a call from the police that my wallet had been found. I had just taken a few drinks and I didn't want to drive, so I took an Uber down to the police station. I waited and waited. Maybe about 30 minutes later, it was my turn. I finally got up to the desk, and I was told by the police that they had not found my wallet and that it may be a scam to get me out of my apartment. I ordered an Uber to rush me back home and waited 40 minutes for a car to finally arrive. When I got home, yes, my apartment had been robbed, and since I had taken an Uber, the burglars also stole my keys and my car. I'm 45 years old, and this is what my life has been like since I can remember. But once I had been robbed of my computer and tablet and television, basically everything, it gave me time to think. The big idea that struck me was this: if there is bad luck, there must also be good luck. Even though all this horrible stuff had happened to me, I suddenly felt something I had never felt before. It was hope. I felt excitedly happy, manic. It was an epiphany for me. And I just knew that when the time came, I would know what to do to reverse all these years of hell. That opportunity came 2 days later. I was getting on the bus to go fill out some paperwork for unemployment benefits when I sat down in my seat, looked at the floor, and there was a quarter on the floor. I knew immediately this was what I'd been waiting for. I reached down, picked up the quarter, brought it up to my face to examine it, and it was not a quarter. It was $50. I had just doubled my money. My luck was already changing. Actually, it was an older $50. It didn't have Kennedy on it like I remembered $50 having. Then I saw it was dated 1921, before Kennedy was around, so it made sense. Now, I truly believe that it was at this point that my hope combined with my belief, my feeling that I can make this happen, that actually started my luck rolling in the right direction. When I got off the bus, I realized that in all the excitement, I had gotten off a stop too soon. But I didn't let it concern me. I started to walk towards my destination, but was stopped cold in my tracks as I realized I was standing right in front of a rare coin dealer. That coin turned out to be really rare. The guy at the coin counter couldn't believe he was holding it in his hand. It wasn't worth $1 million or anything, but he said it was worth about $7,000. And he even offered me $4,000 in cash on the spot to buy it from me. I did not sell that coin. Starting right then, I kept that coin in my pocket everywhere I went. And for the first time in my life, I knew what it was like to live the charmed life. Everywhere I went, there was opportunity. Over the next few weeks, I got 2 different refunds from the IRS after they figured out a mistake I had made. I started planning a trip to Vegas, but I didn't need to go anywhere. Money just seemed to be attracted to me, like I'm some kind of money magnet. I got a new car. I'm closing on an awesome house that cost me less per month than my apartment rent was. I found a new silent partner, and we will be reopening my bar soon. I've met countless women who suddenly think I'm witty and attractive instead of dull and repulsive, including my new girlfriend, who I've had a crush on since we worked at the same place 15 years ago, but she just showed up in my life. Now I'm even writing a book about my experiences, good and bad. And I just happened to run into a producer who's interested in getting a script together to shop around for a possible movie. So, if you think luck doesn't exist, you're just wrong. Here's the bottom line of it. After everything I've been through, here's what I believe to be the truth. I don't believe I have a lucky coin. I believe my luck is created by me. When I'm hopeless and negative, my luck is bad, which makes me more hopeless and negative. It's an endless loop of misery. I believe my good luck is made with two ingredients: hope and belief. And if you can break away from your endless negativity loop for one brief moment, you can turn it around. This knowledge has led me to both a decision and what I'm going to assume will be the end of my big blockbuster movie. I know what I have to do. Tomorrow night, I'm taking the bus. I'm leaving that coin for somebody else to find. And if it's you, you'll have to choose one of three options. Will that coin be worth 50 cents? $4,000? Or something even more valuable, like hope and belief?
Hey, Shock in the Dark. If you have an evil boss, or just on the chance that you might encounter one day, I have the perfect story for your particular brand of storytelling. I will teach you how to handle an evil boss, and it involves a paranormal element, and it is a wild and 100% true story of justice, karma, and revenge. To ensure my identity stays anonymous, I'm going to change the names and leave out a few identifying details, but every other element of this story is absolutely true and accurate. For context, I'm a male. At the time, I was 42 years old and had spent the last 25 years in one industry, starting when I was just a teenager. I spent all those years doing my best work, being honest, educating myself on every aspect of the industry, and working my way up the ladder until I was finally an executive at the leading corporation in my field. This is a huge corporation that you have absolutely heard of, and there's a very strong probability that you have used their products. I decided a long time ago when I was just starting out that I would not be one of those cutthroat, backstabbing snakes that big business is so famous for. I would be truthful, straightforward, and honest in every situation, even to my own detriment. And I did that. For example, I worked with this guy named Dave. He did great work, but he was always looking for ways to undercut the people working with him to make himself look good. Whenever I was asked about his work, I would reply truthfully and say, his work is strong. He's great at his job. I would say that in spite of him stabbing me in the back several times in his attempt to climb the corporate ladder, because that was the truth. So, after spending 10 years in my position as a VP, the company hired a new executive to oversee my department. His name was Charles. This guy, my new boss, was evil. He was a bad person. One of my first encounters with Charles was a get-to-know-you business dinner with everybody in my department. After the meal that night, everyone was at the car valet, leaving one by one until it was just me and Charles waiting for our cars. The valet had just left to get his car when Charles suddenly leaned over and tried to kiss me on my mouth. I was shocked, to say the least. Not only was Charles married with a kid, but I'm a straight male, and he's my boss, and we just met. He had leaned in so suddenly, and it was so unexpected that I barely had time to turn my head, causing him to leave this slimy, saliva-soaked spot on the corner of my mouth and a good portion of my cheek. It was so gross. Like I said, I was actually in shock, speechless. I just stood there while he got into his car and drove away. I stayed in this stunned state until I was finally able to go to sleep late that night. I did not report his actions. I know 100% that this was a mistake. No excuses. I do want to describe my thinking at the time, though. I think male-on-male sexual harassment isn't really talked about and rarely reported. Unless you've ever been in that position, I think it's difficult to know what you would do. I always wondered why any victim of sexual harassment at work wouldn't just report it immediately. Then, when it happened to me, it was obvious. You don't know if you can trust the HR person or whoever you report it to not to tell your boss that you reported them. And what if they just get a slap on the wrist? Then they are still your boss and you have to work for them. And in the best circumstance, they will do nothing to help you. In the worst circumstance, they will sabotage you. And you'll get the reputation as a troublemaker. You add in my traditional male ego, and reporting someone seemed like such an embarrassing and potentially career-ending prospect. Over the following months, I heard through the grapevine that he was consistently saying bad things about me to his boss. Since our corporate culture was such that you were only supposed to contact your direct supervisor and never go over their head, I couldn't defend myself against anything he wanted to just make up and say. But he wasn't just bad-mouthing me to top brass. He was also doing it to people who worked for me. My employees that I had hired and managed daily would come to me and ask, "Why does Charles hate you so much?" A few more months go by, and I learned that Charles had tried kissing and even groped 3 other employees, both male and female. I figured I had to do something. If I wouldn't do it for myself, I had to do it for their sake. So I called the company's legal department and, without identifying myself, anonymously talked to the head lawyer. I told him what I had experienced and what I had heard Charles had done to others, but the lawyer just said that without evidence and without being willing to put my name on the complaint and being on the record, there was really nothing he could do. It got worse. Since I had rejected the sexual advances of Charles, he actively started sabotaging me. He would assign me projects that were literally impossible. Anytime there was bad news to be delivered to another employee or a client, I would be the one to have to do it, so that I would become the face of bad news. The most egregious and blatant act of sabotage came almost a year to the day he was hired. Charles called me on the phone and asked me to go do a walkthrough of a facility where we would be holding an event that weekend. As soon as I left the office to go do as he had asked, he sent an email to his boss and copied the president of the company saying that I had just left work right in the middle of the workday and this is unacceptable. For the very first time in my entire career, I was written up. In my company, being written up means you are one step away from being fired. You've been officially reprimanded, and your firing could come at any moment for any reason. That's why he had called me and asked me to go do the walkthrough instead of sending me an email, so there would be no evidence he had asked me to do the walkthrough. That's cold. That's evil. That night, I was out with a group of friends. Some I knew well, others I didn't know at all. My reprimand was all I could think about, so I told this group my whole story. That's when Sabrina, a beautiful girl with dark eyes, dark hair, dressed all in black, said, "I can fix that for you." Of course, I asked how. She went on to explain that she was involved in magic. I thought to myself, oh boy, you gonna put a spell on this guy? Yeah, great solution. Well, she went on to explain all I needed to do was write this guy's first and last name on a piece of paper, put it in water, and freeze it. And just to keep it in my freezer. She said this would act as protection for me, and that this guy, because I put this bottle with his name in it in the freezer, would not be able to hurt me in any way whatsoever. Great. Magic. That will solve all my complex corporate office political issues. I got home that night. It was a Friday night, about 1 a.m. I was thinking about what the girl had told me, and eventually I decided, what the heck? Nothing else is working. So I wrote his name on a scrap of paper, shoved it in a water bottle, and put it in my freezer. I know that sounds ridiculous. Even I thought it was ridiculous while I was doing it. But here's the part I wouldn't find out until later. At the same time I was putting his name in the freezer, my boss was having the most important meeting of his entire career. The president of my company had sent Charles to represent the company in a meeting with one of the most wealthy, successful, and famous entrepreneurs you can think of. In fact, if you were to name the 3 biggest entrepreneurs you can think of right off the top of your head, chances are you thought of this person. This is big time. This entrepreneur had been courted by all the top brass of our company to partner in a new business venture worth literally hundreds of millions of dollars. Accompanying Charles to this meeting were 2 of Charles' employees, who were known to be the most charming and disarming and known for their great social performance when it's a high-stakes, high-pressure meeting with big-time international celebrities. The plan was they would all meet at a bar for a few drinks, then go over to the entrepreneur's mansion to hammer out some of the details about the partnership. Charles would shake hands with the entrepreneur at the end of the evening, and this enormous partnership would be formed. As it turns out, the 2 employees who accompanied Charles to this meeting happened to be 2 of the employees he had sexually harassed. So, when they noticed Charles was indulging heavily in alcohol at the first part of the meeting, a plan was hatched. These 2 employees kept encouraging Charles to have another drink, which he gladly obliged. At one point, I am told, I wasn't there for this, but apparently, right before leaving the bar to go to the entrepreneur's house, Charles and the 2 employees all did 2 shots of absinthe each. Except the employees had poured themselves shots of water. Well, they all left the bar, traveling in a small caravan of black chauffeur-driven Cadillacs to the entrepreneur's house. When they arrived, Charles stepped into the grand entrance of this entrepreneur's home and immediately passed out on the floor. The employees, the entrepreneur's staff, everybody tried to wake him up or at least get him to a couch, but he wouldn't respond. They discussed calling an ambulance, but the entrepreneur had his personal physician come over and pronounced Charles just blacked out drunk. So they just let him sleep right there in the entryway of the house while the entrepreneur and the two sober employees talked business. Finally, about an hour later, right around 1 a.m. as it turns out, about the exact time I was putting that bottle in my freezer, the meeting was adjourned and the employees and the entrepreneur returned to the home's entryway to find Charles had removed his pants. And, how do I put this gently? Charles had voided his contents from both ends, all over a giant potted plant, the entrepreneur's nice carpet, the furniture, and even himself. It was an ugly mess, and it smelled like a horde of demons had descended upon this man's home. The entrepreneur was graceful and nice about everything, but also obviously very angry. The black car service refused to take Charles home, so eventually Charles had to be hosed down in the front yard of this entrepreneur's house before getting into a cab and leaving. That Monday, the head of HR for the entire company flew all the way across the country to meet with Charles. After the meeting, all of Charles's belongings were packed up by our security department and labeled for shipping to his home. Just because I was sending you this story, I did some online research and found out what became of Charles. Right now, it looks like Charles runs a souvenir store in Florida and supplements his income by selling rocks that he has painted with little funny faces. And that bottle, it's still in my freezer to this day. Did my bottle help cause the series of events that led to his firing? Or is it just a coincidence? I can't say for sure, but I certainly can't rule it out. At the end of the day, if you do find yourself with a Charles in your business or personal life, I would have to say you should definitely not be like me. Have the guts to report someone like this before they have the time to hurt other people. And while you're at it, freeze their name in a bottle. There just may be something to it.